Trump is basically an isolationist. That we now have an era of defensive imperialism as opposed to the offensive, expansive imperialism of the past. Is this defensive imperialism in fact going to be worse for us than the expansive imperialism? There's a big element of unpredictability with Trump now, especially in the Asia Pacific region. Now, of course, with Trump there, and Trump not given to multilateralism, he doesn't like NATO, and he hasn't paid attention too much to the World Bank and the Fund. But I think that Trump will probably be more interested in a more unilateral kind of approaches. And my sense is he has a worldview that is very different from the bank and the IMF, which is, we're going to create a fortress America. We're going to impose tariffs on everything. So this sense of a global system that was being promoted by the bank and the fund, that I think is coming to an end. And as I said, geopolitics now trumps globalization. So I think there's a lot of concern at the bank and the fund at this point about, what's Trump going to do? Will we still be relevant? But this is the fluidity of the current situation, because my sense is Trump is basically an isolationist. I mean, he speaks the standard, or he make America great again, but I think his focus is really the core of the empire. Basically, the rebuilding the North American core, which has been shattered through deindustrialization, and using trade and tariffs to do that, and to force American capital to come back in and abandon their commodity change. So my sense is that we now have an era of defensive imperialism as opposed to the offensive, expansive imperialism of the past. Now you have defense, and the main thing is how do we restructure the core of the empire. And of course, the two things that he's most associated with is he's very much against global trade. Okay, he's very much against migration from our parts of the world. Basically, if Trump had his way, it's only people from Norway, white people, that would come in as migrants, and the rest of us he considers shithole countries. So you have this inward-looking thing with the this sort of Superman kind of rhetoric, accompanied by an inward-looking in terms of building the core of the empire. And this is, basically one way to look at Trump is you read what Viktor Orban says. And Viktor Orban basically is channeling Trump. And he basically says, okay, what Trump is really interested in is rebuilding the North American core. And of course, there's the Monroe Doctrine that includes South America, Latin America, but even there, we really don't know what he's up to. But basically, in terms of this global engagement, I think that we're seeing a period where he's not going to be that interested in NATO. The EU will be left to fend for itself. Our part of the world, the Asia Pacific, is going to be very interesting times. Will he continue the military containment of China? I'm not sure. Of course, he will have a trade war with China, but the way Biden, was with China in terms of escalating the military containment, I'm not sure that's going to happen. And of course, one of his big pals is Kim Jong-un in South Korea. And Kim Jong-un loves Trump because Trump has basically said that I'll deal with this guy and we can reach a deal. And maybe what this deal might be is to reduce the American military presence in South Korea and Japan, which I think would be great. But what I'm just trying to say is that there's a big element of unpredictability with Trump now, especially in the Asia Pacific region. And I would imagine if you expand it to the Indo-Pacific, there's also a sense that people really don't know what Trump would be up to. Although, of course, he has developed very special relations with Modi. Now, how that's going to translate into the policy towards South Asia is something that would be very interesting to see. Is this defensive imperialism, in fact, going to be worse for us than the expansive imperialism of the Democrats and the whole liberal period? Because for the last 80 years, the U.S. has had this so-called global engagement, using its ideology. You defend freedom everywhere, meaning you defend the freedom of capital to move everywhere. We now have an administration that basically is extremely protectionist and would like to end those global engagements. So the big question is, is this going to be a better situation for the global South? In the sense that a number of things open up for possibilities. And it's still a big question to me. It's clear Trump is bad for the United States. I'm not so sure in terms of the global South. And there you might have differences in the way that the Trump administration will affect. Clearly, for the Western Hemisphere, which has always been sort of, the U.S. has approached it from the Monroe Doctrine from the 1820s. It's going to be bad. You're already talking about Mexico. Trump has practically declared war on Mexico. And of course, there's that Panama Canal. But for the rest of the world, I'm not so sure if this is going to be worse than the expansive imperialism that the liberal internationalists espoused. So there's still a number of question marks for me.